Have you ever felt like a season of your life was over, and now all that's left are ruins, silence, and memories of what once existed? Ezra 1 and 2 are about new beginnings, about a God who never forgets his promises, even after years of pain. There are moments when life feels stuck, as if dreams have been carried away by time, as if what God promised feels far too distant now. The people of Israel lived through exactly that. Years of exile, far from their land, far from the temple, far from the place they once called home. But Ezra begins by showing something powerful. When God decides to restore, no one can stop it. These chapters speak about returning, rebuilding, hope, and ordinary people who chose to obey the call of God. Maybe today you also need a fresh start. So listen to this message carefully, because God still knows how to bring life back to what once seemed lost. Ezra 1, verse 1. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken through Jeremiah, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, verse 2, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, The Lord God of heaven has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Verse 3, Whoever among you belongs to all his people, may his God be with him. Let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and rebuild the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is the God who is in Jerusalem. Verse 4, And whoever remains in any place where he now lives, let the people of that place help him with silver and gold, with goods and livestock, besides the freewill offerings for the house of God in Jerusalem. Verse 5, Then the heads of the families of Judah and Benjamin, along with the priests and Levites, everyone whose spirit God had stirred, rose up to go and rebuild the house of the Lord in Jerusalem. When God calls someone to rebuild, he also awakens strength, courage, and purpose within them. Verse 6, And all those around them supported them with articles of silver and gold, with goods, livestock, and valuable gifts, in addition to all the free will offerings. God often uses people around us to help fulfill what he has promised. Verse 7, King Cyrus also brought out the articles belonging to the house of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had carried away from Jerusalem and placed in the temple of his gods. What once seemed lost forever, God was bringing back. Verse 8, Cyrus, king of Persia, had them brought out by Mithridates the treasurer, who counted them out to Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah. Verse 9, This was the inventory: 30 gold dishes, 1,000 silver dishes, 29 knives. Verse 10, 30 gold bowls, 410 silver bowls of another kind, and 1,000 other articles. Verse 11, in all, there were 5,400 articles of gold and silver. Sheshbazzar brought all these along when the exiles came up from Babylon to Jerusalem. Ezra 2, verse 1, These are the people of the province who came up out of captivity and returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to their own city. Verse 2, they came with Zerubbabel, Jeshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Reelaiah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mizpar, Bigvai, Rehum, and Baanah. This is the number of the men of the people of Israel. Verse 3, the descendants of Parash, 2,172. Verse 4, the descendants of Shephatiah, 372. Verse 5, the descendants of Era, 775. Verse 6, the descendants of Path-Moab, 2,812. Verse 7, the descendants of Elam, 1,254. Verse 8, the descendants of Zattu, 945. Verse 9, the descendants of Zakkai, 760. Verse 10, the descendants of Bani, 642. Verse 11, the descendants of Bebai, 623. Verse 12, the descendants of Azgad, 1,222. Verse 13, the descendants of Adonicum, 666. Verse 14, the descendants of Bigvai, 2,056. Verse 15, the descendants of Adin, 454. Verse 16, the descendants of Ater through Hezekiah, 98. Verse 17, the descendants of Bazai, 323. Verse 18, the descendants of Ura, 112. Verse 19, the descendants of Hazam, 223. Verse 20, the descendants of Gibbar, 95. Even in the middle of names and numbers, we see something powerful. God knew every family, every person, every story. No one was forgotten during the restoration. Verse 64, the whole assembly together totaled 42,360. Verse 65, besides their servants and maidservants, and they also had 200 male and female singers. Verse 66, they had 736 horses and 245 mules. Verse 67, 435 camels and 6,720 donkeys. Verse 68, some of the heads of the families gave free will offerings for the house of God, so that it could be rebuilt on its original site. Verse 69, according to their ability, they gave to the treasury for the work. When hearts are moved by God, generosity becomes part of the rebuilding. Verse 70, so the priests, the Levites, and all Israel settled in their cities. After years of exile, the people were finally returning home. What once seemed impossible, God fulfilled. Ezra 1 and 2 show us that God never abandons his promises. Even after years of pain, he still knows how to restore, gather, and rebuild. Maybe today there are areas of your life that feel destroyed. But God is still a specialist in new beginnings. No matter how much time has passed, when God decides to restore, the impossible begins to happen. If this message spoke to your heart, comment, God still restores folded hands. And share this video with someone who needs a fresh start today. The same God who brought his people back home can also rebuild what you thought was lost forever.